I'm Mitch Zuckoff, filling in tonight for Emily Rooney. Summer is traditionally a slow season for news, but not so this year. Here at home, there was the supermarket strife over the management of Market Basket. There were weeks of racial unrest in Ferguson, Missouri and beyond that could boil over again after the grand jury's decision. And overseas, attacks along the Gaza Strip dominated headlines. That conflict eased with the signing of a ceasefire in August, but tensions between Israel and Palestine are inflamed once again after two men wielding a meat cleaver and a gun attacked a synagogue yesterday. Worshippers returned today to the Jerusalem synagogue that came under siege, as mourners around the world grieve the loss of 5 people, including 3 rabbis born in the United States. Rabbi Aryeh Kapinski moved to Israel from Detroit when he was a boy. Rabbi Kalman Levine emigrated there in 1982 from Kansas City, where he's being remembered for his kindness.
They took one of the lambs, This wasn't a soldier, they took a lamb. He's a very gentle man.
Here in Boston, the Jewish community is mourning Rabbi Moshe Twersky, whose family has deep local roots. Twersky attended the Maimonides School in Brookline, and his father founded Harvard Center for Jewish Studies. At a memorial service last night, Twersky's friends struggled to make sense of the sudden loss.
My daughter Miriam asked me, "Who does this to such good and holy people?" So I have no answer.
Meanwhile, Israeli leaders are responding to the attack by reviving a controversial policy that was suspended a decade ago.
I decided this evening to demolish the homes of the terrorists who committed this massacre and to accelerate the demolishment of the homes of previous terrorists.
Today, security forces destroyed the home of a Palestinian man who drove his car into a crowd last month, killing an Israeli woman and her baby. Whether this response is an effective deterrent for future attacks or simply a retaliatory exercise remains open to debate. For more now on the local response to the attack and the potential political fallout, I'm joined by Yehuda Yaakov, who has served as Israel's Consul General to New England since February. Welcome to Greater Boston.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you. So, because of Moshe Twersky, this is a particularly locally felt incident. Can you talk to us a little bit about the reaction from the community of Jews here?
Absolutely. This has struck a very raw nerve in the community. And whenever any tragedy strikes Israel, it resonates here. The ties are very, very strong. This one resonates deeper, no doubt about it, because of the nature of the family, the involvement of the rabbi murdered in the community, and we send our condolences out to the community, and the community obviously reciprocates.
Now, Consul General, I know that you studied journalism as an undergraduate, and so you see both sides. Now, you said just yesterday that efforts on both sides need to be made to calm the situation. What does the Netanyahu government need to do on its side to calm things?
Well, we saw one very clear example of that in the last week, where Prime Minister Netanyahu traveled to Jordan to meet with Secretary Kerry and the King of Jordan, King Abdullah, to explore ways to calm the situation down. The Prime Minister has also made very clear that Israel doesn't have any intention in changing the status quo in the old city of Jerusalem. Unfortunately, there's another party there that still needs to come to the table, and that's the President of the Palestinian Authority, Mahmoud Abbas.
Well, but those actions were before this. What can he do now, though? The trip and other statements. What is his job now?
Well, the first matter of business for the government, obviously, is to protect the people. It's inconceivable that any Jew or Muslim or Christian would fear to go and worship to his God. So that's the first order of business, and to create an atmosphere of calm, both in the messages that are coming out. The President of Israel, President Rivlin, today made it very clear that we are not interested in an escalation, that we want to calm the situation. So a combination of messages and actions is the first order of the day for the government.
Now, President Abbas has condemned the attack. What more does he need to do?
Well, he condemned it, but last week he said that the presence of Jews in Jerusalem contaminates the atmosphere. It's a short distance between that statement and the murder yesterday. And his advisors have continued to praise the act of murder yesterday in the synagogue as a heroic act and call the perpetrators martyrs. It needs to be top down, from President Abbas to all his advisors, going down to the people. The message needs to be that a red line was crossed here, and now we have to pull back from the brink.
And yet the Palestinians blame members of the Netanyahu government for suggesting changes at the Mount and as being a precursor to this. Well,
Israel is a parliamentary democracy, and obviously members of the parliament, of the Knesset, will raise proposals as they see fit. That's the natural course of democracies. But the fact of the matter is that the Prime Minister and the entire cabinet have made it clear that they're not interested in changing the status quo. And beyond that, the Foreign Minister has criticized members, right-wing members of our parliament for even moving in that direction. But I have to also emphasize, Jews are not allowed to pray on the Temple Mount. And that is a matter of government policy that's been in state since 1967.
Okay. In 2005, your government concluded a study that found that destroying the homes of militants was ineffective and ultimately even inflammatory. And yet, now you have reinstituted that policy. Is this an emotional salve to grieving people, or why? Why do that now?
What are you talking about, a finding almost a decade ago? One would assume that it was explored again, and at this particular point in time was decided that it had a deterrent effect. I'm not necessarily sure that that means that it will be across the board, but in this particular incident, it was decided that was the best way to go.
I think there was hope after the ceasefire in Gaza this August that there would be a de-escalation of hostilities. Now we're in a cycle where it seems the Palestinians, some at least, are celebrating the attack yesterday, and there's a crackdown and the destruction of homes again. Are we heading back into another cycle of violence?
Well, the truth of the matter is, we did reach a ceasefire, but we didn't reach a resolution of the core problem. Part of the problem was that President Abbas let the Hamas through the front door, and it's ironic because the Hamas brings chaos. We know that. We know that from the past. And when Yasser Arafat did the same thing a decade ago, it was Mahmoud Abbas who publicly criticized him, saying that this would wreak havoc on Palestinian society. We essentially I have a sense of deja vu here. And that's essentially where it started.
Consul General Yehuda Yaakov, at a difficult time, thank you for joining us.